Welcome back to the big news that's breaking at the moment. The CBI claims that it has more evidence on the Karti Chidambaram case and his links to Advantage Strategic Private Limited, the company involved in the alleged INEX payoff case for which Karti Chidambaram was taken into custody. The CBI claims it has got several documents from Karti's hard disk that were seized. Among the documents, there are copies of wills made by Advantage in favor of Karti's daughter. Now, of course, Karti Chidambaram has been remanded to 4 more days of CBI custody, but there is another development taking place. The Serious Fraud Investigation Office has summoned ICICI Bank's Chanda, Kochhar and Axis Bank's Shikha, Sharma in connection with the Mehul Choksi bank fraud case. Both ICICI and Axis banks were part of a consortium that lent loans to Gitanjali Group. ICICI Bank, in fact, was the lead bank of the consortium and allegedly gave loans worth 405 crores to Choksi, who has since fled the country.
Investigations into the 12,600 crore PNB fraud have just widened. Now it's the turn of top private banks to answer some serious questions. The Serious Fraud Investigation Office under Corporate Affairs Ministry has begun its own probe. On Tuesday, the SFIO sent out summons for Chanda Kochhar, the CEO of ICICI Bank, and her peer at Axis, Shikha Sharma. According to investigators, a consortium of 31 banks, including ICICI and Axis, also have exposure of rupees 5,280 crore to Mehul Choksi's Gitanjali gems. ICICI's share in this loan? Well, it's more than rupees 400 crore, second only to Punjab National Bank.
Senior officials of SFIO Mumbai confirmed India today that both Chanda Kochhar and Shikha Sharma had been summoned to remain present with the crucial documents in hand before SFIO officials to explain how and why working capital facility of rupees 5,280 crore were given to Gitanjali gems owned by Mehul Choksi.
Axis sent a 2-member team to participate in the investigations. SFIO officials questioned them for 2 hours, primarily about procedures, security and collaterals for extending credit to Choksi's company as working capital. ICICI Bank too has submitted details sought by the investigators. It sent a manager-level official to the SFIO with documents. Remember once again, ICICI was the lead bank in the consortium that lent to Gitanjali. According to highly placed sources, the SFIO wants to determine how did the banks respond if Choksi's Gitanjali Group availed the full limit and left the loan unpaid.
This entire case is getting expanded day by day. SFIO is investigating 400 shell companies created by Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi to divert and round-trip the bank's money for their own benefit. With camera person Mahesh Chauhan, this is Virendra Singh in Mumbai for India Today.
Joining me now, Meera Sanyal, former CEO, Royal Bank of Scotland. I want to understand from her the liability of the country's top bankers. We are now finding out, Meera Sanyal, thank you very much for joining us, that top bank executives will be questioned for clarification. They will not be treated as accused in the loan fraud case, but the accountability when they give such large loans. So far, the focus has been on PNB Bank, but with Mehul Choksi's case also coming up, ICICI gave a loan of 405 crores. It led a 31 bank consortium that extended credit to the tune of 5,280 crores. And the belief is this was done at a time when the Gitanjali Group was under the scanner of the SFIO. How do you respond? Are the top bankers in any way accountable? If not criminally, but at least morally and possibly legally?
So Rajdeep, I don't know the particular details of this case, so let me respond first generally. I think it's very important to say that just because you extend a credit facility, it does not mean that it turns into an NPA, and all NPAs are not frauds, and all frauds are not NPAs. And I think it's very, very important that we draw this distinction. I don't know when the facility was extended to Gitanjali gems. If you say they were already under investigation, then it is clear that the credit risk department of the banks concerned did not do their due diligence, provided, of course, this information was in the public domain. So one doesn't know exactly what the facts of the case are, and without knowing that, it would be hard to say what the liability of the CEO is. Nevertheless, you have raised a very important question. What is the accountability of the senior management of a bank, which is a systemically important bank and which could fail if certain kind of credit risks are taken or if frauds occur under their watch? And I think this is an issue which we in India now need to look at quite closely, because many of our very, very large banks, our public sector banks, and potentially some other banks as well, are in a situation where there could be a serious risk of their bank failing, there could be risk to their customers, there could be harm to their depositors, and there could be a systemic risk to the financial system as a whole.
When you say that there could be this risk, now there is a legitimate risk that every banker takes when he or she gives a loan, but there is a risk which, when a bank fraud of this nature explodes, suddenly leads to questions being raised over due diligence. Now, there will be therefore questions in this case about due diligence, and when due diligence procedures are in place, were they all followed? And how is it that in so many cases we've had defaults that have led to NPAs? Is it because of pressure from the top, from the fact that even private banks could get phone calls from people in power?
No, Rajdeep, so you're absolutely right. And I think what we need to say is that clearly in the case of Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi, there have been instances of fraud. There may also be genuine credit facilities which have been extended. Insofar as the banking sector as a whole is concerned, we are seeing a huge issue of NPAs, which may not necessarily be fraudulent. In fact, I would say we're talking of, 7-8 lakh crores. Of those, hopefully, only a very small percentage is fraudulent, but many of them may have been made either under political pressure or carelessly, or genuinely they have gone bad because the industry has turned down, etc. So there is a large basket of things that we are grouping together. But coming back to your question, what is the responsibility of the CEO? And I would like to perhaps draw an analogy with what happened in the global financial crisis in 2008. So many governments were forced to nationalize their banks. Remember, these were private banks, not public sector banks. And a large amount of taxpayer money was put at risk. And in the UK particularly, where some very large banks, including the RBS, were affected, the question was raised, should senior bankers go to jail if their banks fail? I mean, this was the very blunt question which was asked. Not necessarily because they had entered into fraudulent transaction, but because they were guilty of what we can call reckless misconduct, or at least that's the way the UK authorities called it. And very interestingly, as a consequence of those discussions, and I'm not saying that is what should happen in India, but what has happened in the UK is that since March of 2016, senior bankers, and there is a definition as to what constitutes a senior banker, can go to jail for up to 7 years and face unlimited fines if the bank which is entrusted to them fails.
Right.
And I think this is very, very interesting, because what it does is it fixes accountability. At the moment, any bank can, we've now seen, for example, in the third quarter, another huge set of NPAs have been declared. Right. And this is going on over a sustained period of time. So I think the public is justified in asking, where does the buck stop? Does it stop with the CEO of the company, of the bank? Does it stop with the chairman of the bank? Does it stop with the governor of the Reserve Bank of India? Does it stop with the finance minister? Where does the buck actually stop? Right. Because we as taxpayers are paying the bill for this, and we as depositors may actually end up losing money as a consequence as well.
Okay, so at least finally those questions are being raised. If anything, these questions have been swept under the carpet in the past. The accountability of the CEOs of our top banks Meera Sanyal, as always, a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.